We have Rafa Sardina. He's a Grammy and Latin Grammy-winning producer, mixer, engineer, and you've worked with Lady Gaga, Luis Miguel, and D'Angelo, among many other people. And we have Bob Horn, Grammy-winning mixer, who's worked with BTS, Usher, and Kelly Clarkson, among many other people. So thank you very much for both being here.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
So how do you two know each other?
Through the industry, like just
Yes, we actually, I have been to his studio.
Yeah.
So I even know his lair. He doesn't know mine, but I know his
I know
lair.
yours. he's an idol. Yeah. No, whenever I see photos of him, he's got towers of gear behind him. So
Yes.
he's like the envy of all of us younger engineers that haven't bought our gear yet and all that. But,
Okay, so one question I have for Rafa is, are you ever home? I mean, you never see where you are, but you don't ever seem to be at home.
No, I am home. I am home once in a while. I am home. But I do actually travel quite a lot because the industry has changed so much. I mean, the kind of projects I want to work with, not always have the possibility to move into the US, to do the full production. So very often I move around, yeah. And that's the only reason why.
Uh-huh.
Earlier on in my career, it used to be the other way around. They used to always come to the US. But now things have changed a little bit.
Now, Bob, you came out of Nashville. You're a Berkeley grad.
that's where I started, was Nashville
Okay.
after school.
And
Yeah.
why did you move to LA?
Mostly to get into more genres of music, because at Nashville back in the late 90s, it was kind of country and Christian. And as far as the city, everything kind of closed at 5 p.m. And as a young boy, you couldn't meet girls, and there's only a country bar. And I had a bunch of friends in LA, and it just sounded exciting. And I wanted to maybe work on rock or Latin pop or R&B, and so I moved out here in 2001 and pursued that.
Okay, so you play drums, piano, guitar, and bass.
Yeah.
Why aren't you an artist? Why are you an engineer?
I grew up playing a bunch of instruments, and then I did sound for my church and got into all the gear. And when it was time to go to college, I was kind of torn between being a bassist and a sound engineer. And I went over to Berklee College of Music, and I was still trying to do both until I graduated. And I just made a choice. I was like, I love being in the studio. I'm just going to do that instead of being a musician.
Okay. Rafa, do you have a favorite genre of music that you work with?
Well, actually, when people ask me, it is rock music because I started even myself as a guitar player, as an artist, when I had my bands and all that. That's what I play. I play rock music. And I always had that desire. That was my focus. But then along the process, actually doing live sound, I learned that I like so much more than, I listened to all kinds of music, but didn't really focus on it. And then I learned that I like so much other music, so many other songs and other styles. And I also learned that it's all about the songs for me, more than anything else. There was a shift in my way of thinking, and it became more about the songs and the artistic proposal, a specific artistic proposal that you can actually even deliver with a specific song, not necessarily with, with a full project, but with a song.
So what about you, Bob?
Oh, sorry. What
Do
question?
you have a favorite genre?
Oh, it's hard for me to pick a favorite genre. I love so many things. I grew up on blues, and but I've worked in like K-pop and smooth jazz, and I got one Latin Grammy, even though I'm the whitest guy on the planet, But I just love it all because I just love anything with passion that's performed well. So it's hard to pick one genre. If anything, I had to say my favorite genre would be funk, which I never work on funk because it rarely exists. But yeah, it's hard to choose.
Yeah. Okay. Now, have you ever worked with an artist you didn't like? And can you do that? I would assume when you're engineering, mixing a song, you want to be fully invested in what you're doing, right?
I have worked with people I didn't like more than with artists I didn't like. Very often what happens is that you like the artistic proposal and you really like what the artist has to say, but maybe you don't like the person underneath, or you don't like, how they behave or how they, that can happen. But I also have to say that people talk a lot about that, but that's kind of rare. I would say that's kind of rare. Uh, Thankfully, I think that most people are good people, are cool people, in our business.
Right.
Most people are.
Yeah, and definitely as an engineer earlier in your career, when you're an assistant or you work for a producer, you have to work for whatever artist he's working
Right.
for. So there might be some that you don't really appreciate as much, but for the most part nowadays, like we kind of are referred artists from friends and past people we've worked with, and everybody's kind of, we all have that musician personality, and we just want to do good music and work with good people. And I think you learn that if you work with someone in the studio for many hours with a bad personality, it ruins the whole experience. So we all kind of gravitate towards other people that are like us.
Right. Now, do you guys have a favorite studio to work in?
Well, I know what he's gonna say, his own studio, but which is true. I mean, all of us, we have our own places,
Right.
so obviously we build them over the years to be what we want it to be, right? So obviously it's always our own personal layer and
Right.
environment. But there are many places I love. I love Capitol. I love East West, United Recording, Sunset Sound, The Village.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love,
Yeah.
those Jeff, those places. They're special for a reason, and not just the acoustics, but
It's a
The-
vibe thing.
it's the vibe, it's the whole environment, it's the
Yeah.
whole, how is the structure? Is no matter how weird it might be or how different it might be, it's conducive to good things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I had my own studio. I don't think he knows I sold it last year.
You did so.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm at home now. But my favorite commercial studios are East West and then this little place, LAFX. And those are kind of my two favorites.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm going to ask you this question because I never talk about gear, but do you have a favorite piece of gear that you use?
Well, the one I need at that very moment. But truly, I mean, I'm known for having a lot of gear, but I don't really use.
I've seen those pictures too.
I don't really use all of it. That's the big misconception. I use few pieces, but I have the luxury of having all of it, so I can actually choose for the right. Because I do all kinds of music. I even do classical music.
Uh-huh.
I just finished another classical project with the musicians from the Met in New York. And then I jump from there to maybe an urban project or the last Anna Tijoux project, which is very much hip hop. And then I do pop. So the need, I mean, each style of music and each, concept needs a different piece of gear, a different. So, yeah, I'm not picky in the sense of what it might be. I just, need to find what's right for it.
Right. Are you eyeing anything here on the floor at NAMM?
I haven't really looked too much yet.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually on my journey right now, starting my journey to see what's happening.
Uh-huh.
But I'm always very, very curious. I'm like a teenager looking for, for new things, what's happening. And I love it. I think that we truly need these kind of events because, it's our lifeline.
Yeah.
In terms of as industry people, as professionals, it's our lifeline to connect among professionals to actually exchange ideas and exchange, opinions. And I think so I'm really eager to walk the floor now. Yeah.
What about you, Bob?
I haven't looked around at all either. I just got here today. I'll be here all through the weekend. So, but as far as favorite piece of gear, I like to try lots of different things. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not dead set on one thing, and I always use that. I like anytime a friend mentions something new, I'm like, oh, let me try that, But if I had to pick one favorite thing that I've always held on to, there's a small company out of Missouri called Locomotive Audio, and they make a compressor that I love on vocals, and I've never used anything but that on my lead vocal, but with everything else, I'm totally flexible.
See, now I know his trick for vocals, which I always, I always love. No, okay, now I have it. I got it. Locomotive audio.
So if there's young artists out there and they say, oh, I want Bob to work on my project, I want Rafa to work on my project, how do you take on new work, especially if it's someone that's brand new?
I think that it just has to be interesting. I think that's the only, requirement really. And then you work out the rest of the perks, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, budget, this and that, logistics of things. But I think that first it has to be something that, provokes, your desire to be part of the project.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think there's some producers and engineers in the industry where it's like, oh, you have to talk to my manager, or
Right.
the job has to come from Sony Music. But I just like working on good music. So, and sometimes that's an indie band that's never been heard of, and they have real passion and they write really good songs. So, I mean, if they hit me up on Instagram, we'll figure out everything else, the budgets and all that. And if they can't afford my usual rate, I'll squeeze them in between projects.
Uh-huh.
If I love what they're doing and they really want to work with me, then it feels like something I want to do already, So.
Now, are there any artists out right now that we should know who they are?
Oh, there are so many. I think that these days we actually have like a, I don't know, an amazing explosion of new artists. There has never been this much product out there in the history of humanity. I mean, really, it's like, I think it's 10 times for what we were used to even like 7 years ago. It's like,
Wow.
It's outrageous. And there is lots of great music. The only problem is exposure. How do you get people to spot that artist or that song?
Right.
There is so much noise in the system that it's becoming hard
Yeah.
to spot them. But I'm always listening to new stuff I didn't know about, especially even from my assistants. They're like super young and they're always pointing me to check this out, And I was listening to crazy stuff I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
So I would say, it's a generic kind of answer, but it is true. There is so much. It's just stupid these days. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were asking if there's anyone that should be known that's
Yeah.
not known.
Yeah.
I have one of my favorite singers I've worked with a long time. She's a songwriter, but she's also an artist. Her name is Gina Fontanella, and powerful vocalist and just really catchy songwriter. Every one of her songs is memorable, and I'm just waiting for her to explode. So that's definitely one.
That's very cool. Okay. Has AI impacted your work?
A little bit, because we're already using some tools that use AI. And actually, in other areas of work, in terms of doing research, I think that we use it every day. Or even to create presentations for artists, because there's a different side of the business other than just doing music. Even though we use AI in the plugins, so many of them are that's actually one of the biggest innovations right now in terms of we're gonna see at NAMM. A lot of companies using AI, being assisted by AI, in order to create new kind of plugins, new kind of concepts on how to even use the plugins or other kind of hardware, even hardware. But in terms of the business side, everything is being assisted by AI. You wanted to create a platform as a presentation platform for an artist, you use AI to research, to create, to finish a job. Even you want to create a label for a new bottle of wine, and I know because I'm also in that business, you get assisted by AI.
You have wine now?
Yes.
He has a lot of wine.
That's my other passion, I'm a winemaker now, but I've been for years. But you get assisted by AI on everything, even in the business side. It is crazy, but not everything is as dark as people try to portray about AI. Obviously, we have to wait and see, but
Right.
AI has many great qualities. Yeah.
That was a perfect answer.
Okay. Okay, so I talk a lot about community on my podcast. So, Bob, what's your definition of community?
Definition of community is just like-minded people that are all looking in our industry. They're all looking for good music, looking to work with good people, people that help them take their vision to the next level or to completion, and people that support each other. Whether it's just telling other people about what they're doing, their shows, their music, shouting them out, just any kind of support. But I think to wrap it up in one little phrase is like-minded people.
Okay.
I totally agree with what he said. And I think that very often people say it's like find people with common goals, but not necessarily. It's more about the support more than the common goals, right?
Right.
And if you're lucky enough to find people with common goals, so be it. I mean, and you can really help each other in a very specific kind of way. But other than that, is support. Yeah, having like-minded people, but in the big scheme of things, like-minded people in the big scheme of things. That
Right. Okay. If you have one tip for new engineers, producers who want to be Bob Horn or Rafa Sardina, what's your one tip for them?
sometimes I always regretted being so naive during my whole career, being really naive about many things. But naiveness also brings enthusiasm and also belief. How you always, when you're naive, you always believe things can happen and will happen. And that's like real life. Life is very naive in a way, or some of the paths of life are very naive and are very, so some people think like, oh, if I knew all of this when I was 20, I would have become like this much bigger, or I would have done this much more. But the reality is that maybe you wouldn't have done shit if you had been so freaking smart from the get-go. So I don't know. It's more like live and let live, and allow yourself to make mistakes and live life, and
My favorite thing to see in young people, and what I would suggest to them, is be sure that if you're going to get into this world, that you're a person that has the passion to have the pursuit for the best, and to always put yourself climbing. You're not going to be a hobbyist. Like, this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
This is all you think about. Like, if you have that kind of passion, then you can deal with our world, which is very unlike the corporate world. It's the Wild West. So if you're going to get into it and you're going to have sleepless nights, no insurance, no weekends off, that kind of thing, be sure you have the passion to pursue it at the highest level. Even if you never get there, always strive to. So that's what I would say.
My youngest son, when he was in high school, he was about to graduate, he decided, I like music, I want to be an engineer. And I said, oh, no. And he said, well, why not? And I said, because you like music, you're not passionate about producing music. So he's a baker. He's passionate about baking. So, yeah, so I definitely
it does require passion.
Yeah. Okay, so last thing, we have random questions. So if you pull one out of the hat, tell us what the question is and answer it. So. I know what you're looking.
Read a book or watch a movie. Just because of time, I watch movies. I'm not a book guy. So
Disneyland or Six Flags? Well, I like thrills, so Six Flags, I would say. But even though I love Disneyland too, well, I don't know. This is a trick question, okay? Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion or regular Haunted Mansion?
Oh.
Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion, for sure.
Thank you very much. That is it. I really appreciate you guys doing this with me. So.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for having us.